in Korea, we are creating an ecosystem where any specific golfer can come into our ecosystem and be able to touch every point within the game of golf. So that's what we've created in Korea, and that's what we are hoping to create here in North America.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Fiella, and welcome to what I know is going to be a really interesting episode of the Golf Sustainability Podcast, because I'm joined today by Sean Pyun, who is the president and CEO of GOLFZON America. As most of you know, I've been really interested in understanding and exploring this whole idea of the off-course trend. And I think a big part of this off-course golf trend is going to be what's happening with indoor golf. And while indoor golf is just emerging in the US, it is massive in South Korea and Japan. And GOLFZON is the dominant market share leader in simulator facilities and equipment in both of those countries. So we're very, very lucky to be able to talk to Sean today, as GOLFZON is really getting ready to make their mark in the U.S. And it'll be interesting to look back on this conversation 2 years from now, because the indoor golf market will be very different here in the U.S. in 24 months than it is today. So, Sean, welcome to the Golf Sustainability Podcast.
Hey, John, I appreciate having me on. I'm just hoping in 2 years I don't sound like an idiot. I just did. So want to be careful not to get myself into that trap. But good to be on. I appreciate your time, and we've got a lot of stories about the company, and I'm excited about the opportunity to share with you and your listeners here today.
Great. Well, listen, I would, if I was a betting man, I would be betting on you based on everything I've learned so far. So take us to the beginning, Sean, and the history of GOLFZON's leadership in South Korea is really fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the history of GOLFZON in South Korea, Japan, and give us an appetizer on your plans for the U.S. Market.
That's a lot of questions into that one. That's a very packed question. I appreciate it. I can go back to kind of how the company started. Our chairman, Young Chan Kim, who was a network infrastructure engineer for Samsung, decided to quit his job at the age of 50, just about 25 years ago. And he said, you know what, I've done my corporate gig for a very long time, been very successful. Now I want to pursue something that means more to me and my family, and really to me and my friends. And he loved playing golf. He loved playing golf, and he's always had an issue playing golf with all of the friends and family that he loves, because many of them didn't have an access nor could afford to play the game on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And he said, I've got this network and infrastructure technology in my head. Can I go build something that creates an additional access to the game of golf for everybody? And that's where the idea started. It was him, a couple of his friends, his wife, and his son. 5 of them decided we're going to build a prototype and see how that works. And that was in year 2000. So when their goal was, let's try to build 10, 15 of these a year and sell it to the driving ranges. That should get me through the retirement while I'm doing something that I really, truly enjoy doing. Well, little did he know that blew up way beyond his expectations. At this point today in Korea, we own about 74% of the golf simulator market share. And it's the same market with all of the big technology companies, as you know, whether it's TrackMan, Full Swing, they're all doing business in Korea. But based on what our technology provides, we've been able to dominate the marketplace. Currently, we have about 12,700 locations worldwide, and about 9,000 of them are in Korea. More than 6,000 of them, not 6,000 simulators, but 6,000 locations are GOLFZON franchise locations. So it's easy to say we dominate the market. The chairman's mission was very simple: making the game accessible to anybody and everybody, regardless of your social status or level, and be able to really build these communities of golf and connect them through the network technology that he has created and established. So that's been a huge opportunity for us in Korea, what we've seen the last 20, 25 years. Now we have the professional based tour called G Tour. It's been running for 14 years. we're obviously the number one in golf simulator technology, retail locations, or a number of installs. However you want to look at it, not just in Korea. I mean, just this last year, we tracked over 8 billion shots worldwide. We had more than 102 million rounds played on our system, over 6.2 million registered users, 160,000 tournaments played. And that's, I think that gives you like 440 tournaments a day or something like that. So that's just the sheer numbers of what GolfZone is producing for the game of golf. And we are continuing to turn out more golfers. The most interesting statistics that I've seen throughout all of our business and ecosystem in Korea is that some around 70% in Korea comes through and pick up the club for the first time at a golf zone location. That's 70% of a nation that everybody understands is so hot on golf. That is unbelievable, right? Now, with the simulator, the indoor golf game has taken off, and that created additional opportunities for Golf Zone. So what started as a dream or vision to make the game accessible amongst people has now gotten us to the point where we're not only the number one golf simulator company in Korea and around the world, we're also the number one golf retailer in Korea, over 106 stores under Golf Zone Market. And that is, I think, 70 or 80% bigger than the second competitor of ours. We also own and operate 20 golf courses, which is the largest number of golf courses in a portfolio for golf unit operator. So it's not just a simulator business we're in. We're really taking our business to a point where creating an ecosystem of all golfers. You come to Screen Golf and play some round, then you go to the Golf Zone Market, then you can go book the tee time on our app, then go buy some stuff at Golf Zone Retail, and you can actually play in Golf Zone courses. So in Korea, we are creating an ecosystem where any specific golfer can come into our ecosystem and be able to touch every point within the game of golf. So that's what we've created in Korea, and that's what we are hoping to create here in North America.
Wow. So understanding that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that in May when I make a trip to play courses in both Japan and South Korea. It really is a glimpse into the future of what I think will wind up taking place here. There are so many things you mentioned that I want to touch on. First and foremost, the term I think you used was the mission was to create accessibility of the game regardless of social stature. That obviously is the social side of golf sustainability that we're exploring here on the podcast. And it's clear to me that providing these indoor facilities as an on-ramp for people to get into the game who might not normally have an opportunity to get onto a course is very, very compelling. Now, did I understand you correctly? Is it in addition to the 6,000 facilities that have 9,000 simulators, you also have you operate 20 green grass golf courses and have 160 stores, like here in the States, PGA Superstore, where you go in and buy equipment and shoes and apparel?
Yeah, 20 golf courses and 106 stores.
106, not 160. Okay.
It's called Golf Zone Market, and it is very similar to a typical store you see here in the States, where there's PGA Superstores or the Golf Galaxy or Worldwide Golf. It's the golf specific retail with big retail fronts.
Right. 20 years is roughly a short period of time to have built out this ecosystem, as you referred to it. How did GolfZone go about achieving such dominance and building out this ecosystem? Was the idea of an ecosystem part of the original vision, or is that something that evolved over time?
I think it evolved over time, and I won't speak on behalf of my chairman. And quite frankly, I haven't asked him that question yet. But prior to me joining GolfZone, I used to work for the LPGA Tour from 2008 to 2024, 2023. And I remember when I first brought GolfZone to the LPGA Board of Directors as a potential corporate partner opportunity. Sure, there's a revenue that comes with corporate opportunity, but the board asked us the very specific question: is why are we endorsing an alternative form of golf that many might consider more of a video game? And I remember sitting in that room next to, Mike Wan, who's currently the CEO of USGA, and John Padania, Chief Commercial Officer. And our thought was this: if there's an opportunity for us to put the clubs in the hands of people, and by LPGA being part of that, we can reap the benefit of additional customers, additional golfers growing in this sector. We don't need to find another reason. Like, we don't need to go and look and see if this is real golf or is this a video game. At the end, we're putting clubs in the hands of people. What they choose to do from that point is up to them. But I thought this was a great sort of a top of the funnel movement for the LPGA and golf in general, and that was 11 years ago, and I think we more than proved our point from that move. And so, while the creating, evolving into a multi ecosystem in golf is something that's sort of evolved over time, but I think our focus was very from the get go was very clear, and that's growing the game. I mean, when you look at the entire context of what's happened and what the chairman has done, and it's just all about putting the clubs in the hands of people, and whatever they choose to do after that, it's up to them. It's unbelievable how many phone calls I received at the time in 2014 from the stakeholders, whether it's a golf ball manufacturer or the golf club manufacturer or the golf course owners. They thought the LPGA was legitimizing a video game industry into a golf, an immersion into a golf. Today we have more number of rounds being played, more golf equipment and retail, more golf clothing that ever been bought in Korea. Like, we grew the entire pie. I wouldn't say it's all golf zone, but it would be very difficult to leave golf zone out of that, a significant growth of golf in Korea for the last 20 years.
Yeah. So it's fascinating because here, a big question in the States, as you know, is what's the actual conversion of people who start indoor and then move on to green grass? And there are no good, clear numbers and sense. There's a sense that that's going to happen, but I'm curious, tapping into this 20 years of history in South Korea, has there actually been any gravitation from people who start indoors and then gravitate to the green grass environment?
100%. For example, John, if we didn't have the indoor, what would be our conversion rate? Our conversion rate would be zero if there were no other alternate forms of golf. I think as a sport, and it just short 5 or 10 years ago, people were concerned about the longevity of the game. As people continue to age, do we have young generation who's really fully bought into the game? 5, 10 years ago, there was a question mark. I like to think that that question mark has been erased for to a certain extent, and I like to think alternative forms of golf have contributed to that, whether that's indoor golf facilities like the Golf Zone and others, or if it's something like Top Golf or Top Stroke. There are a lot of different ways people can enjoy the game of golf. It wouldn't be a prudent thing for us inside the golf industry to say this is golf, that's not golf. I mean, I think that is a kind of a pointless practice, in my opinion. Like, I have never met a single player who plays in indoor golf to say, my vision and my goal is to continue to play indoor golf until I no longer play. Everybody have aspiration to go play Augusta National, go to the Masters tournament, go play Pebble Beach. What indoor golf does is just really, really creating those visions and dreams of amongst the golfers who otherwise didn't think about playing in those facilities. So I think aspiration of indoor golfers are no different than anybody else that's playing some of the world's best golf courses ever. Like, that's what everybody wants to do. And I think indoor golf has a significant room to sort of provide a pipeline of golfers into our green grass facilities today.
All right. Okay. So let's go to the next level on that point. You actually own now 20 courses. I would imagine you're viewing your indoor people as the pipeline for the green grass facilities you own. Are there any formal programs, or is there like a club that you have where I'm a member of both the indoor and green grass? Like, how are you using the indoor players as a pipeline for your 20 green grass facilities?
Well, I would like to think that we're a pipeline of all golf courses in Korea. I'm not sure if there's any specific programs. I'm sure there are. Like, we'll run a tournament and the winner gets a 2 tee time spots at one of GOLFZON golf courses. But here's kind of where we are today, John. The problem is we don't have tee time problems in Korea. I like to think that GOLFZON played a significant part of that in the last 15, 20 years, to a point where we don't have any free tee time, access tee time. So just getting on the golf course is still very difficult. And still the reason why a lot of people still flock to indoor golf and screen golf locations because it is the next best thing. Um, I would tell you though that the kind of the difference between so far, sort of the American customers versus the Korean customers is that American customers are coming into indoor golf looking to replicate exact same play that you have on the outdoor green grass facilities. But let me tell you, that is in a very short way, short answer to that is there's no way you can replicate an indoor golf, outdoor golf inside,
Yes.
right? So most of the customers in Korea already come into an indoor golf facilities understanding the differences and they enjoy two different activities in two different ways. But we're still kind of focused on, okay, is this data accurate? I will tell you all of my competitors and everybody in this industry, just for the most part in the major companies, from a tech perspective, we're all 95% accurate. So you can say one company is more accurate than the other. There's no such data that proves that, but all of us are right around the 95%. So John, whether you think you're hitting 170 yards and 7 iron or 165 yards, that would be the difference in terms of accuracy between the systems. So, I mean, I think that's a big difference in Korea. People come in and try to enjoy that as is and what it is versus people here still trying to understand whether this indoor golf is the right thing to do or if it's even a thing to do, or is this one of those that's passing through. But I will tell you, like, there are reasons why indoor golf has stuck really well in Korea and other parts of the world. A golf zone system in particular is very sticky, whether it's coming from a moving lies or connecting different sims in 10,000 different locations all at the same time. These are very sticky technology. I mean, so I'm excited about what golf zone can do in the States. I mean, just indoor golf in general, but like what we can provide this customer base here.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I was wondering what you might consider to be the biggest challenges to adoption here in the States. And kind of you've touched on one, this idea that when a green grass golfer goes indoors, is their expectation benchmarked to the outdoor experience? And when that expectation's not met, is that a turnoff? So it'll take time for people to kind of get it. So where does that rank in terms of the challenges that you see to adoption and growing the indoor game here in the US?
I think this might be more particular to my company than everybody else, but you look at where the technology in golf has originated, right? In Korea, as I've said, we were really the start. The golf zone was the start of technology in golf. And our focus was very clear. That's creating a most realistic indoor golfing experience, right? Not saying we're the same as the outdoor, but that's why we put so much effort and resources into creating a motion plate. For example, unlike every other technology that's out there, we don't hit off the flat turf or flat surface because when you go to the golf course, you rarely hit off the flat surface. So we created a motion plate that moves in 64 direction, creating up to 56,000 different lies. That's why we spend additional dollars to go map the golf course to get the entire topography versus using a Google Earth image. That's what we do, and that's what we've invested in. But in Korea, it's all about creating that holistic golfing rounding experience. Whereas in US, I think the technology really originated from a launch monitor. You take it to the driving range outside, you put it in and look at your numbers. So it was much more numbers, the accuracy driven versus in Korea is focusing on the actual game itself. So when you look at US and Korea, the two markets started from a completely different starting points, in my opinion. So we've always focused on creating that experience, creating, connecting people, whereas you got a lot of companies there that are focused down to yards and centimeters and millimeters on how accurate those systems are. So I think the origination points were different. I think they are merging, by the way, at this moment. And for us, it's just really understanding US customers, right? So up to this point, GolfZone being the number one golf simulator company in the world, whether by number of shots tracked, number of install, number of customers, whatever the measurements you want to put it out there, we're the number one, right? But we've always had this attitude, and I hate saying this about my company, but we had this attitude sort of telling you, John, if you're the customer in US, I'll tell you, John, this is what's good for you. Doesn't matter what you think is good. Let me tell you, my product is what's good for you. Just use my product. That's how Golf Zone had in the past operate our business here in North America. Now we're really trying to understand better what our customers are telling us, how this US market is different from Korea. So, for example, since I've been here in the last 14, 15 months, I had our CTO, head of NX development all come here, spend weeks of time understanding our customers. Prior to my arrival, for the first 6 years of GOLFZON America, we never had one developer from Korea ever set foot in the GOLFZON America's office. That's the changes you're seeing, right? So we're going to completely redesign our UI and the user experience because our experience today is more focused on Korean golfers. When you go to the kiosk and start your round, you have to touch 7, 10, 15 buttons. The Koreans and Asians are really focused on, well, I want to make sure my putting is this fast, green is this fast, this kind of wind, all the different settings. Well, for me in US, I just want to press 2 or 3 buttons and go and start playing. So we're understanding what is different just from a consumer behavior and how the product should be different. And we're really adjusting to that. So for me, the biggest challenge to answer your question is to really understand and be able to localize our business and product to cater to the needs of the consumers here. So I think that's been in a nutshell biggest challenge for GolfZone for the last 5 or 10 years in terms of making our products more global. But we're now doing that, and I think you're going to see significant differences and changes coming from GolfZone in the next 12 to 18 months.
That's fascinating, Sean, because basically what I'm hearing you say is over the last 20 years, your technology has evolved with the audience in South Korea, which is now a much more sophisticated indoor golfing customer. And that more sophisticated customer understands and gets all the different things you could do. But here in the US, where you've got a novice, people doing it for the first time, to think that they may be able to understand and execute against that advanced range of settings, if you will, is challenging. And listen, I've got a personal anecdote, and I think I told you this when we met at the NGF Executive Conference. I went to your store in Scarsdale, the shop in Scarsdale, and number one, it's unlike any other simulator technology.
Thank you.
That moving plate, I didn't realize there were like 60,000 variations. I just thought it went down and up and side to side, but it sounds like you could combine those variables. That was really cool. So you felt an uphill lie, you felt a downhill lie. You've got the 3 different types of turf. So you could hit out of the rough, you could hit out of the sand, and then you could hit off of a regular fairway. And then on the putting, to be able to actually putt when that dot comes up and says, here's your line, you've got to hit the line with the right pace. It's really unlike any other technology that's there. So you almost have to, I don't want to say dumb down, but you may almost, and this is a terrible term in golf, but you may almost have to roll back some of the functionality. You know what? There's 3 settings when you go to the terminal: advanced, beginner, middle, first, and advanced. And then the functionality lights up based on your level of experience. I will send you an invoice for that for that UI advice.
Well, you can send me as many invoices as you want, and I'm good with that, John. But I don't know that it's so much of a difference between sophisticated consumer base versus the novice. I think it's more of a cultural differences. I know I grew up in the States, right? But when I play let's say FIFA on PlayStation, I don't go change, substitute different people or the players. I don't go to the 4-3-3 formation versus 4-2-3-1. I just go and start play and go to the default functions. So I think at the very minimum, because we have a lot of first time golfers and first time folks coming through that haven't utilized technologies like this before, the onus is on us, like the manufacturers, to make it easy for them to get involved and get stuck to the technology and this activity. Once you are more into it, and now then you start questioning, well, I want to make sure my green is a little faster than that. I want to create a little more real life experience of the wind blowing in a pretty significant way. Like it can get you that point, but right now I don't give you that option. I'm
Right.
just telling you, you must go through setting changes, right? So that's sort of an overall culture differences. And I'll point out another culture difference, Sean, just for your for fun. The thing is, like, if you go to the indoor golf facilities here, you see a nice bar and open base where everybody plays and they're open to. In Korea, it's all in a room setting. So we grew up in going to karaoke and a lot of different activities within a confined room setting. And that's also a different culture. Now, if you go to places like Los Angeles, or if you go to a place like New Jersey, where there is a heavy Korean populations, you're going to find some golf zone power locations that have different rooms. So between the two cultures are very different, but what's interesting is the things that I'm noticing on the overall trend of indoor golf is very similar. For example, when a commercial customer, John, let's say you want to go open a John's golf sim and bar. If you go and do that right now and buy technology, let's say you got 10 bays, 10 technology, and then you have your bar, you're going to do really well from October to April, depending on where you are. But if you're in Northeast or Midwest, let's say in the weather impacted areas, from October to April, you're going to be golden. You're going to be, selling out your base. However, your downtime in the summertime and the golf courses are readily available and accessible, you're going to experience significant downturn in your business. In other words, right now, most commercial customers do about 30% in their downtime relative to their peak time. And that's across the board, whether it's GolfZone or other simulators. Well, we saw that number is right around 2005 to 10 in Korea. Right now, 80 to 85% in the non-peak time relative to the peak time. So we're noticing the trend right now between last year to this year. I see facilities that's gone up 200% in the hours per sim that they're utilizing, 150% that's gone over. So we're starting to see the differences, John. Once you get indoor golf as an acceptable entertainment option in your mind, you're no longer looking at that as, is the golf course outside available? Because at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., no golf courses are available. That's really the peak time for indoor golf. So right now, you're starting to see a lot of transition of minds and thoughts and attitudes. And we've seen it before. And I'm telling you in full confidence, for anybody who's looking to open a golf sim bars or places, the better days ahead of us. And you're getting in from a ground level to establish your brand and practice. I'm telling you, in 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to barely have your non-peak time. Yeah, that's what's happened in Korea.
So the leagues and tournaments, I would imagine, play a big part of this. I mean, the things you're doing with tournaments is really incredible. Tell us a little more about the whole tournament structure. I know you've got the high level tour that culminated at the PGA show, but it sounds like you've got other tournaments and you're kind of taking advantage of this network effect, if you will, of all of your simulators. So tell us a little more about the tournaments and kind of how you're connecting players in different locations.
Yeah. So as I've said I think at the beginning of this podcast, in Korea, we have what we call G Tour, and most of the players that are participating in those G Tour, both men and women's, are either former or current professionals that are playing on whether the Korean LPGA Tour, Korean PGA Tour, or their subsequent development tours. So we've got the idea from that. GolfZone is all about creating a competitive ecosystem, right? Because John, I know you do too, but I've got a little PGA player that lives inside of me that every once in a while that wants to come out. Well, I love TGL. I like PGA Tour. I love PGA Tour and TGL. Those are great platforms, but I wanted to, for us, it's more grassroots level for everyday Joes like yourself and mine. How can you really compete and create a really cool opportunity within that, right? So that's where the idea really started. But in my first 6 months, John, I've went and visited about 40 commercial customers of mine. And every one of them would tell me, and I would challenge them, hey, what is your problem? What are the biggest issues that you're seeing that could potentially, hinder your growth and your business? And it was pretty unanimous to me. That's summertime programming. And how do we fight the seasonality of our business, whether that's short lived or long term problem? So I wanted to make sure we get the league player in tours that brings foot traffic into our commercial stores locations. On the onset, you may think Golf Zone Tour is all about branding the Golf Zone and doing things for Golf Zone corporate. But for me, the real headline here, the real reason for this is driving traffic into our commercial customers. So, unlike the Korean G Tour, where it's individual professionals that are playing, I made 12 commercial stores of the Golf Zone that is not owned or operated by Golf Zone itself to become my franchises or team. So, the Golf Envy, who won the tour, was a LA based team. So this whole thing is focused on how can we make our customers, were the most important constituent in my business ecosystem, more successful. So that's where this all began. The cool thing about what Golf on Tour is doing and has done, and first, I'm selling a lot more golf simulators from that. I won't lie to you about that. But I'm getting calls from New Jersey high schools. Hey, we want to create, there's a couple golf zone locations nearby our high schools. Can the six of us get together and create a competition? Could Golf Zone support that? Like, I would love to get Golf Zone to donate us a system for my high school golf team. And I'm getting a call from colleges and universities about, hey, in the off season, could we create like our conference tournament between 8 teams in our conference? Like, would Golf Zone support that? And then I get my own customers calling from Minnesota and saying, hey, could we create our own Minnesota Golf Zone Tour where the winner now plays in the National Golf Zone Tour tournament? So were we ready to launch Golf Zone Tour? No, I can tell you. I can tell you one meeting when I had all my directors in the meeting, they just came to me and say, "Hey, Sean, I know really we all know you want this. We're simply not ready. We're coming to you as an executive team of yours that you reconsider and push it back to next year." And my point was, guys, that ship has sailed. We're going to launch it and we're going to learn together what we don't have, where we're lacking. But one thing that I don't have is time. I got everything else. So why don't we do this? Because I don't want to go to my customers and say, your business is important, but I don't have everything baked out. So let's wait till next year. Because to a lot of entrepreneurs, 1 year is a long time. So I wanted to get it off the ground right off the bat as incomplete and unready we were. We wanted to get this launched and figure out the problems. And that's where we are. And I think it's been a good success just based on the testimonials and things that I get back. And obviously the number of sims that we're selling, that's another barometer. But I love the fact that it has inspired a lot of my customers to do something different than they were doing before. And we're going to really track down number of participants, number of qualifyings, a lot of different metrics to see if this is really helping. But I have no doubt this could be a game changer for the golf zone ecosystem. And more importantly, I think this is where the indoor golf industry should be moving forward. Whether you use same system, different system, we got to get to a point where whether it's Golf Zone, TrackMan, Full Swing, all of the big players love their technology, and I think we're in this together. Like, we got to create an ecosystem where we're all playing together in order for us to grow as an industry. I think that is really about creating the competitive ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, I think your commentary there also gives an interesting glimpse into Sean Pyun as a leader. And that is, you were like, hey, let's not allow perfection to be the enemy of the good. And yeah, we may not be 100% ready, but let's go. And then, I mean, the whole thing of iterative development, which in technology and in software is very common. And I mean, things are rarely launched when they're 100% baked. It's like, you learn, you launch, you learn, you iterate, you learn, you iterate, you learn, you iterate. So that's fascinating. But when you think about this, so theoretically, you could have a high school league and tournament, a college team, a regional team. It's very compelling. You mentioned TGL, and you and I have talked about this. I think TGL is the single best commercial or marketing device for indoor golf that you could have ever imagined. What, if any, impact do you think TGL will have on the simulator market and your business specifically?
Well, I think we look at it. First of all, I agree with you. I'm a big fan of TGL. I think I've relayed that to you on our previous conversation. It's not about which technology that they're using or how complete that technology is today. Or are we, am I, fighting against people who are producing the TGL products. No, not at all. I think it's similar to what the Top Golf has done for the entire golf industry, not just the indoor golf or alternative forms of golf. It opens door to people because when you create that kind of a mega platform and to be able to share on a platform like the ESPN or CBS Sports, I mean, these are game changers for the industry. So I think I'm not alone when I'm saying from an industry perspective, we all want TGL to be as big of a hit and success as it possibly can be. And I think it just opens door to a lot of people just from how they perceive indoor golf as. If Tiger Woods is part of it, if Rory McIlroy is part of it, it's ESPN is airing it, it must be something, right? So, I mean, I think we really felt that energy at the PGA show this year when that was happening. I like to think the simulator companies were really the talk of the town during the PGA show, and I've never seen the amount of people at my booth. As I've gone to Golf Zone booths for the last 8, 9, 10 years, having managed the Golf Zone program from an LPGA perspective, I've never seen anything like this. And I think the final match of the Golf Zone tour certainly contributed to that. But even before that, I think the number of people, number of sims that we were selling or talking to people about at the PGA show probably triumphs the last 5 shows combined. So I think that's part of that is, with us coming up with our latest and greatest technology and Two Vision NX and GDR Max prototype, but also I think it was heavily impacted by the success of the TGL. So,
Yeah.
we're all hoping. I mean, are there things that I wish TGL would have looked at it differently or have further incorporated? Of course, we all feel that way. In fact, I wish they would have used GolfZone's system, but I think that ship has sailed a long time ago, which is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why isn't there, John? I mentioned this to you, but why isn't there women's playing on TGO? I don't find that to be anywhere near acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes no sense for me. It just, I know I come from the LPGA background. I may be alone in this, but it's such a big mess. You know, we could have impacted so many more younger people through having more women, showcase equality and what the game represents today, starting in 2025. It's one thing if it started in 1950, okay? But we've come a long way. I think in 2025, I think we're in a different place. So I'm a little, um, I'm not happy that that was missed out. I know it's not my show. Like again, I'm grateful for what TGL is doing, but I mean,
Yeah.
don't you wish there was Nelly Korda and Jin Young Ko playing in that TGL platform?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I like TGL. I've gone to 4 of the events. I'm going to the finals. So it's good. And I'm not a TGL basher. However, I think there were 2 big missed opportunities. One, you reference no women. The second is total absence of charity. If the goal is to broaden access to the game and grow the game, where's the charity element? They frankly could take a lesson from you because I'm pretty sure at your finals event you presented I think it was a $50,000 check to either a local group or some charity related activity. I think there's got to be the same way there's charity related to all of the professional tour events. There's got to be a charity element added to TGL. Um, who was the group that you made the contribution to?
We made a contribution to our Arnold Palmer Foundations that works with a lot of different local charities. I mean, I come from a professional golf background, John, as you know, as I've said, and that the golf tournaments and economics of golf tournaments were fundamentally built upon the charities of each place that they play in. So for me, that's important. That's a one area that indoor golf, as new and infant as we are, we haven't quite figured it out yet. So for me, working with someone like Arnold Palmer Foundation, it's just a great opportunity for us. We want to make an impact. We want to contribute. We're not quite there yet from a overall tournament ecosystem where we're, doling out $1 million as prizes. Could that happen in the future? I absolutely believe that. And then the charitable component has to be part of that. And that comes from our chairman and founder in Korea. He's been running his own version of Adaptive Open for the last 10 years. I mean, he cares about these things and he was completely happy with doing this in Korea. But given that our reach is expanding, he wants us to do more and see more of that. So Arnold Palmer Invitation and Foundation work is a direct order from our chairman to find different opportunities to impact on the charitable side. And so we plan to do more of that moving forward. Um, I was so close, John, to be honest with you. When the Golf Envy won the tournament, we wanted to make a significant and meaningful contribution to the LA community who just suffered through a big fire, the Great Fire there. We missed that boat, but I can tell you we're working on figuring that out with Golf Envy today.
Well, look, the key thing is you're thinking about it, right? If the goal's to grow the game, there's got to be this element of providing funding for those that need it to get access to the game. And, I think one of the opportunities for TGL, theoretically, okay, they're going to have a team that wins. Let's say it's the team from Atlanta or the team from Boston. Why not make a contribution to the first tee group in that city? You may even think down the road, and it's not about the size of the check. It's about the thought process that says charitable giving is an important part of what we do, no matter how big the check. First Tee is such a great cause, and to see them potentially benefit from this is something that, just makes a lot of sense to me. But I will now get off that soapbox.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm sure TGL is thinking about that. I know there are a lot of good people in that organization that I personally know, and I know they're thinking about those things. So I think you can give them a bit of a pass on the first year and see if they catch up on that in year two and beyond. But I have full faith that they'll get to that point.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hey, man, this time's going by so fast. I have to give me 1 or 2 minutes max on City Golf because the concept's unbelievable. I can't wait to see things like it. So tell us about City Golf.
Yeah, it's another kind of a project for our founder. His goal is to create this opportunity where, it decreases the overall kind of a land mass that is needed to create a golf course. We could be free from a lot of the weather and inclement weather and other outside factors in enjoying the game of golf. And then it also creates efficiency in terms of energy uses and water uses and things like that. So he wanted to look at all things considered from a sustainability standpoint on the golf and create a model that people can come and enjoy. Now, we have one facility that is up today in China, as you know, and we've got, I would say, at least 15 or 20 conversations between Korea and US. We're having conversations here, in particular in US, Northeast area. We've got conversation here in my very backyard in Virginia. We've got conversation going in West Coast, not in the middle of downtown LA, but different areas where these things make sense. So we're in Las Vegas as well. So we got a lot of conversation that are happening about this. And I would say if I was a betting man to use your terminology, I would say that within the 24 months, you're going to see at least the one City Golf location that happens here in the United States.
Awesome. Now, from a description standpoint, I'm going to share what I believe it is and what it looks like, and kind of you tell me if I'm correct. It's almost a mini TGL where you hit into a screen and then you go behind the screen and there's actually a green that tells you where you should be putting from. And then there's 18 holes of that. Is that roughly what we're talking about?
That's right. Sorry, I should have probably explained that first. So you walk into the facility, you hit it until you get to the green, and you don't go around. The screen in front of you just opens up.
Lips. Okay.
It lifts up, and then you walk straight out to the green. Then we have the laser technology from the ceiling that tells you, like, John, if you and I are playing, you got the blue dot, I got the yellow dot, right? So when I get there, blue dot will be shown where your ball should be placed on. And same thing for me on the yellow dot where my ball should be placed on. Could we have created it where you play that and then run back into the facility? Sure, but we put premium value in the overall experience going from one hole to
To the
next hole
next.
and then creating 18 different greens versus one moving technology today, like the TGL.
Yeah.
We have all of the moving green technology in house. If you see my simulator, that motion play, that is very similar technology that TGL employs for their grid. So we can certainly create that today. But our first model, rather than hacking all of the tech, make it easier to not only use, but also operate from an operator's perspective. And that kind of massive green on TGL, maintaining that on 365 days will be pretty costly as of today. Yeah. So that's us.
Yeah, Sean, by the way, your energy on this is like off the charts. I love speaking to you. And, we could go on for hours, but we've got about 5 minutes left. And I definitely want to get to the final section of the conversation where, we get to know you a little bit better. We've already learned a little bit about your leadership style. You're obviously a very dynamic executive that's got a clear vision and some drive to accomplish what it is you're working on. So what's the source of that energy? What drives you?
Well, I can't tell you that. I can tell you that it's not money. I can promise you that. So, I mean, from time to time, they could change depending on the day, but there are a few things that's always on my mind. The first thing is the customers. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs are counting on me to deliver them the technology and the product that they can make their business go. So for me, thinking about them and really just from my perspective, thinking about how I can better their business or improve their bottom line is always on top of my mind. So that's always been the same, whether that is just thinking through what you are offering them or really, simply put, just plain role reversal. If I put myself in their shoes, what could I do to impact their business the best? What do they want to hear from me? Like, what do they want to see me do? Like, that's always on top of my mind. So that's always first and foremost. And I think if you talk to anybody in my building, they'll tell you Sean's focus on the customers. I love getting on a complaint calls. I love getting on a call where somebody's had bad experience
Right.
because every one of those are great opportunities for me to be closer to my customers and really understand their problem. That in turn improves my business. Secondly, it's just doing it for the team. So I love my team. I love growing the team, and I take very personal kind of what kind of environment and workspace that they have. Are they happy to be here? Because I mean, we're not machines. When they're here, they spend most of their time, 50% of the time in this office. I want to make sure they're happy. So those are probably two things that are mostly on top of mind. But again, like I like to think I'm a winner and I'm driven by winning. And, when you got such good products and such good intention, I think it makes my job pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, that relentless customer focus is a common trait among extremely, extremely effective leaders. I had the good fortune to know Sam Walton personally in my early on in my career, and he was all about the customer. Jeff Bezos is kind of legendary about how at his meetings he has an empty chair and he envisions the customer is in that chair. So your drive around customer satisfaction is something that's shared by some great leaders. So I normally ask my guests from Greengrass. I say, "Hey, look, okay, you're about to play your last round of golf. Where do you want to play it?" I'm going to change that up a little bit. So you're playing your last round in a golf zone simulator. What course do you get plugged into the screen?
So that's a tough question because it's a question between do I talk about the golf courses that are currently on my system or more golf courses that's coming in the next couple months? We've got a lot of US golf courses that we're going to be mapping and putting in our system. John, not just the golf course you see, but when that golf course was first built. So 1905 design versus 2025. That's one thing that I think we're doing that none of my competitors in the industry is looking at. So there are few that's hot on the hoppers, but if it's not, if it's currently today, I mean, there's no question it's the Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach.
You've been there, I'm sure, and I played it
Yeah,
myself. There's just no place like Pebble Beach in this world, in my opinion.
right.
Um, Obviously, I haven't played on Augusta Nationals and a few other golf courses, but what Pebble Beach represents for me is such a holistic experience in and outside of golf. Like, I think if there's one place I could visit before I go into my next phase would be Pebble Beach. One place I could play on my golf zone simulator would be Pebble Beach.
Wonderful. Well, oh my goodness, you've given me the topic for our next conversation, and that's around the rendering of the experiences and the courses in your system. Sean, man, I can't thank you enough. This was a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to my trip to Korea. and learning more about you in your original environment. And I wish you the best of luck as you pursue developing the U.S. marketplace.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate your time and thanks for having me on, John. I appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thanks for listening in. And man, you've had a real treat today because you've not only learned about kind of cutting edge progress of indoor golf as it exists in South Korea, but I think you've also been given a glimpse of what we might be experiencing here in the future in the United States. If you enjoyed this episode of the Golf Sustainability Podcast, please tell your friends, colleagues, business associates about it. Register and subscribe to the podcast either on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. And stay tuned for future episodes of the show. And thanks very much for being a part of the golf sustainability community. Have a great day.